crying, you know. That's it. We just want you to cry it out a little bit. Don't get back to your breath. Cry it out. That's it. Mom, are you...
Hey everyone, my name is Alyssa Fisher. This is the first time I've ever done a video like this, so it feels a little unnatural to talk to a camera, but I'm just gonna roll with it. I'm here to share my birth story, the birth story of my VBAC. A VBAC is a vaginal birth after a C-section, and I just had my second baby. She's right here, Emmeline Anita. She was born 9 days late on February 11th, 2020. I also have a 19-month-old baby girl named Ellery. So my two babies were 17 months apart when I had my successful VBAC. My labor experience was very long, but we anticipated that given the information we had from the birth of my first daughter and the reasons why I had a C-section with her. At my practice and at my hospital, they don't do any induction drugs when you are a VBAC. So for you to TOLAC, you have to go into labor on your own. Emmy was hungry. The first time I was checked was 40 weeks and 5 days, and they checked me even though we anticipated there to be no action. I wasn't having any contractions, I wasn't really showing any signs of labor, no bloody show, but they checked me because we had to figure out what our plan was. So at my 40-week, 5-day appointment, I was checked, no action, nothing. So my midwife was encouraging. She said, listen, you're still early, you ovulated late, there's a sure chance that this can still happen, but we do need to schedule a C-section for you, just on the off chance it doesn't. So the next day was a Saturday, and we kind of just hung at home that day. We did all the things that they suggest you do when you want to go into labor. We spent the first half of that Saturday like really driven to induce myself the best we could. And by about 4 o'clock, we kind of just decided to let it go, just to let things be. So we went out and had a super nice dinner. We watched a movie. We had a fun evening with our toddler. And nothing was happening that Saturday. It just was kind of like a regular day. So we went to bed early, around 9:30. We were watching a lot of Curb Your Enthusiasm to keep my hormones in a good place, because I was trying to stay away from anything that would make me emotional. And around 2:30 a.m. that night, I woke up, and I just woke up extremely anxious, and I felt extremely defeated and frustrated because I had been working on a VBAC for so long. I really had thought about nothing but VBAC for the past 20 weeks at that point, and I just felt scared. I felt nervous that maybe I wasn't making the right choice. Maybe we should have already scheduled a C-section. Maybe I was just somebody that didn't go into labor, but I felt a real gush of something. So I went to the bathroom, and I had pink and red cervical mucus. So we kind of had concluded that that was my bloody show. So we laid back down to go to bed. And as I laid down, I just felt so uncomfortable. I could not get comfortable in the bed. I just was all of a sudden in all this pain, and I actually started having contractions, which had not happened at all at that point. If I had a contraction, it would happen like maybe once and then it would disappear, but I was having contractions right after that happened, so I said, whoa. But it was manageable because I eventually did get some sleep, but it was not very good sleep, and I definitely was in pain. So the next day was a Sunday, and we had plans to go to church because we were going to pray, and we were just going to, you know, pray to God for the answers. But since I had that bloody show happening, we decided we didn't need to. We could skip church. Well, not that we didn't need to. You always need to pray. But we thought it would be best to stay home in the event the baby was coming that quickly. So we got our toddler up. We went for a super long walk, like 4 hours long. We went to a local coffee shop and had breakfast, and we walked until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So Grandpa came over that Sunday night, and we got all ready to go to bed. And like the night before, the second I laid down, I got really uncomfortable, and I started having contractions consistently. So we worked through it. I couldn't sleep, could not fall asleep, I couldn't get comfortable. I was definitely in the most pain at that point. So we were in communication with my doula, and my doula just kept asking, well, what are the timing of your contractions? So we would screenshot the app for her to tell her what was going on, but it really wasn't useful information. The contractions were coming so quickly and so randomly, and my doula just kept saying, well, there's really no point for me to come over until your contractions are where they need to be. So I tossed and turned that night. I kept my husband up. We try a bath because every podcast I heard, every mother was like, oh, you know, a bath was really soothing. Me personally, the bath was not comfortable at all. Around 5:30 in the morning, after looking at my contractions, my doula said, I'm pretty sure this baby is really posterior. I'm going to come over and do some spinning babies with you and try and get this baby in a better position so that your contractions will get to where we need to be. So my wonderful doula came over around 5:30, and it was just like an angel coming into my life at that moment. My husband really tried, but he was not very helpful with the pain. My doula started massaging me. She started doing counter pressure. She helped me to relax. She helped me to breathe. She helped me to get to a good mental place where I felt strong. And she just was a godsend at that time because I was really tired. It was about 24 hours since I had that original bloody show at that point, and just her presence just was what I really needed in that moment. She suggested we go to the hospital and just find out what's going on. We were greeted by my midwife, and my midwife checked me, and she said, you're 3 centimeters. So I was super happy about that because I never had that experience with my first. I don't want to, backpedal too much, but the reason for my C-section with Ellery was a failed induction, and the only dilation I got to was 6 centimeters, and that was after 2 long days of Pitocin and heavy drugs. So the fact that I got to 3 centimeters on my own felt like such a championship. I was so happy with that. But she said the baby is posterior, and it has an asynclitical head. I think I'm saying that correctly. And she looked at my doula. I remember they had like this moment of like locked eyes, and my midwife was like, she has some work to do. My doula got right to work with doing some exercises with me, and these were pretty fun actually at first. I'm a dance teacher, so I enjoy working out. We did a lot of different positions through the contraction. After several hours of doing those exercises, my contractions started to calm down and space out. We really kind of hit a peacefulness in the day, and while I was disappointed that the contractions were slowing down, it was what I needed because I was really tired, and it was now like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It wasn't until about 6 o'clock that my doula was like, let's change things up. Let's try and get things to move along. I have some new positions we can try. We came up here and we made it relaxing. We dimmed the lights, we got some candles, we got some affirmations that I had saved, and we got some oils, and we just made the room really calm so that I could work through the pain. My doula said, you should probably get some sleep, and we called my midwife and they're like, yep, she definitely needs to sleep, like let's give her some Benadryl, she definitely needs to sleep. So we got ready for bed, and like the other 2 times, the second that I would lay down in bed, I would have this excruciating pain. And this time, not only did I have excruciating pain, but I was so emotional. I was so frustrated that I couldn't sleep, and I just kind of had a breakdown. I started saying things like, I just want a C-section now. I don't want to do this anymore. I started getting really panicked because I wasn't able to feel baby kicks because the contractions were happening so quickly, and I wasn't in the hospital, so I didn't know the heart rate. I didn't know she was okay, and that was just starting to really play tricks on me, and all I wanted was to know that she was fine, even though it was February and raining. But my husband and I went for a walk, and it was just really nice to connect with him and just have that moment, just the 2 of us, and for him to say, like, hey babe, like, like, what do you want right now? Like, you want this VBAC, or like, do you really just want a C-section? So I said to him, I want to talk to my midwife. I was crying, and I said to her, I can't do this anymore. I just want to come in, and I want to try having an epidural, and if the epidural stops my contractions, then I'm okay with a C-section. When we got into the ER, the receptionist was like, oh, she's in labor, and she called the labor and delivery unit and said, we have a woman in labor, and all the people that were in the emergency room were like super concerned and super excited, and that gave me like a surge of energy, just like being there and being around people, and it just got me like you're here, you did it, because being 40 weeks pregnant, zero effacement, zero dilation, you don't know that you're going to get to that point. So it just brought me back to like, you're doing it, and brought me back to why I wanted to be back, and that was just a great confidence boost. So we got checked into labor and delivery, and the first thing they did was check me. And as they checked me, my midwife said, have you been having this fluid all day? I'm like, yeah, I've been having that fluid since my bloody show on Saturday. She goes, no, this is different fluid. And I go, I don't know. I said, that's just what's been happening since Saturday. I talked to you guys said not to worry about it. And she said, let me check this. And it actually was amniotic fluid. So throughout the day, my water broke, and we didn't know when. They finally checked me, and right before they checked me, I remember just praying and being like, please just be at least at a 6. Like, please just be at a 6 so that I can get this epidural, because I was really hitting a wall. And she checked me, and I was at a 6, almost a 7. So that was the best feeling in the world. So I said, so I can get an epidural? And they all were like, no, you can't get an epidural. I was like, breathing through it, but I trusted my providers, I trusted my husband, I trusted my doula, and I knew everyone had my best intentions at heart. So I said, okay, like, what are we going to do? So they gave me narcotics, and they worked instantly. And I don't know what kind of narcotic they gave me, but it was pretty strong, because within like 2 minutes I was out. So they said that the narcotics would last for 4 hours, so it would be 4 hours before I could have any other type of drug. But they said that they would really only put me to sleep for 2 hours, that the second 2 hours of the 4 hours, I would be like coming off of the drug. I got frustrated. So from like 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., I was having these wild contractions, long contractions, but they were good timing. They were good contractions. And I remember asking for an epidural, and they kept saying, we can't give you an epidural right now, because the narcotics won't be weared off until 4, but we can give you some laughing gas. So they suggested laughing gas, which was a joke. The laughing gas was a fail, and the narcotics was wearing off, so I was just really getting frustrated. But that frustration quickly turned into exhaustion, where I was even too tired to be frustrated. And it was approaching 4 o'clock in the morning, and I said, can I please have an epidural? And once again, I'm told, no, you can't have an epidural. And I accept it, because I trust my friends that were there. But the reason they were telling me no, even though I was at a 6-7 when we arrived, I hadn't been checked again, they said, your contractions are not in a good place, and if your contractions stop, then this could all stop, because we can't give you anything to keep your labor going. This next part is what I call the fog, because I don't really remember. Time kind of stopped. I definitely felt like it was an outer body experience. It's like kind of like surreal, like thinking back on this part of the labor. I think this was my transition. I think this is when the baby was transitioning, because the pain was unreal. And I just like don't remember kind of being awake. I don't really remember being there, and I don't know how I didn't fall over. I'm actually pretty positive that I had like a guardian angel in my room at that time. I don't want to get too trippy or weird, but I definitely felt the presence of God, because I know for a fact that my body was not held up by me. I know I was leaning into somebody because of how tired I was, and it just, the fact that I didn't collapse just makes me feel that God was there, because somebody was holding me up, and it wasn't my husband or my doula or my midwife. And the reason I know that is because, I'm in the bed, and I have my body propped up, the bed's up in like an L shape, and I'm up, and the right side of me is all of my crap, my IV, my penicillin, my monitors. And I had a moment with everybody. I had a moment where Danielle, my midwife, came over and rubbed my back and gave me words of wisdom during this, my doula, and my husband, but they all were on the left side of the bed. And when I felt that I was held and leaning into somebody, it was on the right side of the bed, so nobody could have been there. So I'm actually tearing up just a little bit, but I know that like somebody was holding me. So we were approaching 6 o'clock in the morning at this point, and I just it was time to be checked again. And they checked me, and I was at 8 centimeters. And they said to me, well, what do you want to do? And I looked at my husband, and we both kind of decided that it was time for an epidural, and that if an epidural was going to stop my contractions, then it was going to stop my contractions, because it was just getting to be too much. I couldn't go on much longer, and if I did go on much longer, I would have no energy to push out a little baby. So we just knew it was time to have the epidural. And I fell asleep till 8 o'clock in the morning, and those 90 minutes felt like 9 hours. And I just remember when I woke up, it was just such a beautiful feeling in the room. My doula was asleep, my husband was asleep, and the sun was coming up. It was still raining. Actually, the sun was up, but it was like daylight, because when he did the epidural, the sun wasn't up yet, and it was daylight. And I was having a new nurse come into the room, and the nurse that came in when I woke up just was like a kick butt nurse. And then the nurse said, I'm going to check you. And I said, you're going to check me, not the midwife? She goes, yeah, I'm going to check you. So she checked me, and she said, you are complete. And that was so cool to hear. And she said, you're complete with an anterior lip. And I said, is that a problem? And she goes, no. And I go, okay. And my doula is waking up at this point, and she goes, oh yeah, that happens all the time, not a problem. So nobody was concerned about it. No one really explained it. But I was just so happy to be complete that it really was not a big deal. So about 20 minutes later, the midwives are having a transition and shift, and they came in so cute. They came in so happy. It felt like if I had big sisters, they were coming in, and they were like, Alyssa, we were just talking about you. We were so happy for you. You're going to have your VBAC, and you were so determined, and, you know, all your questions, all your appointments, you know, it's paying off for you, and we're just so happy and proud of you. And I remember the other midwife who was there on call for the, you know, past 2 days was like, you know, I might stay because there's traffic and I really want to see the baby. So I think it was maybe more the traffic, but she had said she was going to stay, so that was really cool. So we talked, and I said, so what are we going to do now? Are we going to push this baby out? And they were like, nope, not yet. We're going to wait. And I said, really? Like, I'm complete. Like, doesn't that mean, you know, you push a baby out? And they said, no, you're not really ready yet, but you're complete. You're not going to go back. So we're just going to wait until you really feel the urge to push. And I said, well, when will I feel this urge? And they said, when you're not contracting and you want to push when you're having a break in the contractions, that's when you're going to push the baby out easier. So I trusted them with that. I didn't really understand what they meant because I definitely felt that urge, but we just kind of let it ride. So my doula went to get my husband a bagel and a coffee. I had a liquid plate, which was Jello, tea, broth, and an Italian ice. And as this is happening, my doula is having me lay on my side with a peanut ball. She said, let's try and get these contractions to lengthen out a little bit. And she had me on the peanut ball, and like my first baby, because she was also a posterior baby, they were really painful. I did not like the peanut ball because of how much it hurt, but it works. So, you know, it's definitely a great tool. So she had me lay on my right side, and I wasn't really feeling too much discomfort, but when she rolled me over onto my left side, I was like really feeling discomfort, and I remember saying, if you keep me on this left side, I'm going to start pushing a baby out. So I said, I think you need to call the midwife. And I'm laying on my side, and I'm almost like really feeling like I'm gonna push a baby out. Like I'm really feeling like the pressure, and it's feeling like the baby's gonna come out any second. And I remember saying, is she coming in here? Because I think I'm gonna push this baby out without her if she doesn't come in. So so they're getting ready. I'm laying on my left side. All of a sudden they push out the table, the baby table with the little hat and the scissors, or not the scissors, whatever the thing is that you cut the umbilical cord with, a bucket for the placenta, and I'm just getting so excited. And I start to ask in this moment, is my uterus going to rupture? So that was a fear I had my whole pregnancy, but it really left once I got to like 39 weeks pregnant. So my fear from uterine rupture changed to placenta failure. I went from being like, well, let's just hope I have this baby, I go into labor, and then I don't go too overdue. So my fear of uterine rupture just disappeared, which is so weird. But I just got fearful of never going into labor. So, but as I'm 10 centimeters, after 2 long days of labor, all of a sudden I get this anxiety again, like my uterus is going to rupture. And they're all just kind of laughing at me. They're like, well, you know, of course it can happen, but it's not. And like my midwives, just the whole time were like, it's such a small chance. And every time I would ask them questions about it, they would really say, you know, Alyssa, you have to just get over this. You know, we're telling you it's really slim chance. Like it really hardly ever happens. But if you're scared, you need to let it go. And in that moment, right before I'm ready to push, I'm all of a sudden getting fearful that the baby's going to get stuck or that I'm going to rupture. And I start to have like this like anxiety, but she's coming so quickly that I have to just like really let it go. And then all of a sudden I felt this pressure in my back, like my butt was going to explode. And I said, she needs to get in here now. This baby is coming. And I remember looking at the clock right before that happened, and it was like 10:59 on the dot. And we started pushing. So I did one practice push, and I pushed on my back the whole time. So I was laying down in happy baby. My doula was holding my right leg, and my husband was holding my left leg, and a camera. He recorded it. And I was holding onto the bed with both hands. So we did one practice push, and you know, pushing was pretty fun. I never pushed before, but it was an adrenaline rush. I really actually enjoyed it. And yeah, it was like, it felt kind of cool. It felt like a really intense workout. And I actually pushed on my back the whole time. I went into this experience thinking I wouldn't be pushing on my back, because when I had my first labor, I was on my back the whole time. So I thought, you know, that I wouldn't be pushing there. But now I realize that I just needed to not labor on my back. So I did one practice push, and they told me to inhale at the top of my contraction and to hold my breath when I would push. And they would say, you are going to push 3 times through each contraction. So this was hard for me to do, because as soon as I would inhale, I would exhale. It took me a while to learn to hold my breath and exhale after I pushed 3 times. But once I got the hang of that, it moved pretty quickly. So it was my second push that they saw the head. And it was super cute because my husband got so excited, and he was really supportive of my VBAC, but it wasn't until this moment where he was like, wow, she's having the baby this way. And he was excited because he got to see the head first, and he said she has brown hair. So that was just so exciting, because I just was like, I want to see her brown hair. So we kept pushing, and it was 38 minutes of pushing. I'm not sure how many times I pushed, but it happened and it felt quick, and it just didn't feel that hard. You know, once I kind of got the rhythm of my breathing, it felt like a good workout. It just really was exciting, and I enjoyed it, and I loved it. When she came out, she you know, they brought her right up to my chest, and I remember not being able to get her up as high as I thought I would be able to get her, because she was attached to me. But so she was like kind of like right balancing like on my ribs, and she didn't cry right away, like, but she was just there, and I was holding her, and I was like, oh my god, like I was pretty dramatic, and it was so cathartic, like just all of this emotion and all of these feelings, and just like I literally felt cleansed. Like the second she came out, I was like, wow, like I did it, I had it. And it was amazing to see my husband cut the umbilical cord. He had the biggest smile on his face, and I just was so happy for him to have that moment. And you know, he never ever was like, you know, big deal, I get to cut the umbilical cord, but I really think he was protecting me, and I think he wasn't letting me know how much he wanted it. But in that moment, I could see that this was really special to him. So I nursed her right away. They cleaned her up, you know, a little bit, but she stayed on me for a full hour after they came out. We didn't cut the umbilical cord right away. You know, just to backtrack there, the placenta came out, and that was really cool to look at. I didn't think I would be into it, but it was really fascinating to see the baby's placenta. She was healthy. She was 8 pounds 8 ounces. My first baby was 7 pounds 9 ounces. So that was just surprising, really crazy, and it was just such a high. It was just. I just can't wait to do it again, honestly. It was the best feeling ever. It was those 2 long days were really hard, but it was so worth it. And as soon as she was on my chest and she was healthy and she was there, I just, like, the pain just really was secondary. And I just felt, like, completely fine. Like, I remember being able to stand up and pee. And in comparison of recoveries, like everyone says, a C-section definitely is a much harder recovery. And I remember going to the bathroom wasn't a big deal. You know, it was almost, oh, she's ready to get up. I had to, like, remind myself you just had a baby, like, to slow it down and to take it easy. But so that wraps up my birth story. I hope I made sense. And if there's anything that was unclear, please feel free to reach out with your questions or leave a question in the comments or shoot me a message on Instagram. My Instagram is at Dreaming of the Farm because I really want to advocate for VBAC. I really want to be there. I reached out to everybody and anybody during my pregnancy on my journey to a VBAC, and I wouldn't have been able to have my VBAC without all those moms that were able to answer my questions. And I just really want to be able to do that for women who had a C-section and want to have a vaginal delivery. So feel free to ask me anything, because I just want to share this experience with as many mamas as possible. So thank you so much for listening, and Emmeline and I are going to get up big sister because she's been sleeping for, I think, almost 3 hours, and it's a beautiful day, so we're going to go outside and just maybe go for a walk. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Bye!